Hey, this is Amar helping you to live free and be free. In this video, I want to share with you a simple yet powerful method for overcoming and resolving intrusive thoughts. These are the type of thoughts that we sometimes have of the things that we don't want. It also falls under the OCD category, obsessive compulsive disorder, and there's many people out there who go through these experiences of having thoughts of the things that they do not want, and it really makes life more challenging. So if we have a way of overcoming these thoughts, then we can really start to create a better life for ourselves. As we have probably all heard, our external reality is a reflection of our internal experience. So if you are suffering with intrusive thoughts of things you don't want, then what is your external reality going to look like? Probably not great. So this is a very important thing that we should be able to get a handle on, so we can really start to live a better life, be free, as I like to say. Now, let's talk a little bit about these intrusive thoughts before I get into sharing this exercise with you. Now, if you suffer from intrusive thoughts, you'll probably recognize that you have very little control over them. I've suffered with these myself. They almost catapult themselves into my conscious awareness from nowhere, and they have so much ferocity, the way they just like cut through my consciousness, and you cannot stop them. You can try. I have tried just with willpower to stop these thoughts, but it doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is because these thoughts are usually powered by an emotion, and your emotions are wired into your unconscious, subconscious mind, which is the real powerhouse of who you are. Now, that powerhouse holds around 90% of your power, your psychological power, let's say. So if these thoughts are being powered or fueled by 90% of you, then that little will you've got, that 10% ego, has no chance of stopping them. Just logically, we can see that. Now, because our emotions have so much power over us, we have to get to the source if we're ever going to try to resolve these intrusive thoughts. It doesn't really matter what form the thought is in. You may have an intrusive thought about a relationship, your career, your health, or any area of life. The solution isn't in dealing with it on the surface. It's about getting to the core, the emotion that is driving these thoughts to come into your head in this intrusive way. That's why they're called intrusive, because they almost intrude upon us. And I think, from my own personal experience, the main emotion attached to these intrusive thoughts is fear. Because we're experiencing something that we do not want, it usually triggers a feeling of fear or apprehension. And when you boil it down and really get it to the core, you'll probably see it's some heavy emotion that's attached to it, something like fear. When we're able to identify the source of it, the core emotion, then we can see what we need to work on. Let me share the exercise with you. The first step to overcoming these intrusive thoughts is to not resist them. So the first step is actually to do nothing. When the intrusive thought comes, let it come, let it flood your consciousness. When you resist it, when you counteract it or try to argue against it or justify it or make excuses or whatever you do, you're giving it more power. Resistance is energizing it. That's what it wants. As you remove the resistance and let it just flood your consciousness, let it flood your whole body, then it can't stand. Then your awareness is almost invading it. And that's all the exercise is. When the thought comes, you let it flood your whole consciousness, your being, and you just stay with the discomfort. You'll actually realize it's not as bad as you might think. It has a certain energy to it, a certain vibrancy, a certain vibe, but you can just stay with it. Over time, this gets easier. To begin with, there may be some discomfort, but gradually you'll start to just be able to stay with it. You'll find some peace within that intrusive negative thought, and you'll realize it's just an energy. Maybe a heavy energy that has a certain vibrancy to it, but it certainly is not as painful as you may think it is. But when I say really allow it to flood your consciousness, that doesn't mean you identify with it. So if it's some scary thought you have about your health, it doesn't mean you get tied into the story and identify with the story. You just allow the feeling, the energy, the vibrancy of the thought to flood you. And that's what you stay with. Try to go into it as much as you can without identifying with the story. And if you're able to build this into a regular practice, and every time these thoughts come up, stay with them, stay with the feeling, over time, they'll just leave you. They'll almost integrate, dissipate, and they'll just go. So all these heightened fears you have will gradually begin to normalize, and you'll have a normal sense of fear, or you can take it even deeper and start to work on even deeper fears. You can take it wherever you want, but it will definitely help you reduce these intrusive thoughts that you have. It requires commitment, discipline, and just intention that you believe it's going to work, and it does have a very, very powerful effect on these negative thoughts. So please, I welcome you to go ahead, try this exercise out. Hit me up in the comments if you have any questions, or you want to report back with any results, or if you want any clarity. Otherwise, if you like the video, please go ahead, give it a thumbs up, share it with your homies if you think it can help them out, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Otherwise, remember, as always, to live free and be free. Thank you.